there, guys. This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Thank you so much for being here. You know, this show is created to discuss life topics, to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. And as you know, I always try to find like these amazing, interesting, beautiful people that I want to bring on here to give you more insight, challenge your thinking, give you information. So today I found EA Csolkovitz. I hope I said that right. He's the founder and patriarch of the Givers University to teach others worldwide about givers and takers. I love this topic. And he has many courses and books titled The Giver's Mindset, The Giver's Lifestyle, The Giver's Lifelong Learning. And it's for the Give to Be Great series that he has on his site. So I am really, really happy to have him here. How are you today, EA?
Neena, thank you so much for having me on your great show. And I know there's no sugar added, but maybe we can add a little Splenda or something. Anyway,
Yeah,
so we'll see how
that's that's low in calories.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
EA, tell us a little bit more about you. I know I give a little intro, but you have a long, beautiful history in health and wellness and all of this stuff. So tell us a little bit more about you, EA.
Happy to. Thank you. I was actually born in Chicagoland area, the greater Oak Brook area. And my father was a milkman.
Wow.
Back then, milk was, glass containers.
Glass jars, yeah.
And I think they switched to plastic because of how many I broke when I was 5 years old. But anyway, but that helped my father. When I was a ripe old age of 5 years old, and on his route, and he got up every morning, and it was he one-man operation. He had his own truck, and he was a milkman. What was interesting was you and I were talking about different times before we began our interview here, and back then there was a box outside every house, and that was the milkman box, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the amazing thing, Neena, as you know, there was money in it all the time, and no one ever touched the milkman.
Yeah.
There was money in the box. Everyone, well, that's milkman money. You don't touch that. Different times than today, right? I mean,
Right.
It's extraordinary. But and so it's very humble upbringing, if you will. My father was, one man operation. And then at 16 years old, I took my first step towards prosperity, and I became a janitor. Now, I didn't mind being a janitor because business was always picking up.
Right.
Anyway, so
I got it.
I did. Okay. Usually I do a pause, and if no one starts laughing, then I do. Because then at least I know there's one person laughing. So
right.
So being a janitor, I was able to be bonded at 16 years old, which means insured, right? So that means if my buffer hit some piece of equipment, the insurance company would pay for it.
Oh, so you started your own janitor business?
Nope. I was working for someone else in Addison,
Okay.
in a place called Addison, Illinois, a janitorial service. But I was able to be bonded at an early age.
Wow.
So because of that allowed me to be in really expensive homes at the same time. And every Wednesday, I cleaned a lady's house as a janitor. And the name won't mean anything to your listeners until I make the movie reference. Her name was June Martino. And there was a movie out a couple of years back. It'll probably be out for a good time because it actually is quite a good view. It's called The Founder. Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc. And by the way, I lived in Oak Brook area. So in my lifetime, I witnessed the entire phenomenon.
Oh, wow.
And in the movie, Michael Keaton, Ray Kroc, is always talking to a lady outside his office. June this, June this, June this, June. That lady, she's through the entire movie. That lady is the lady whose house I cleaned every Wednesday, right? And when I met June, she was already an icon in the area. The McDonald's phenomenon. The world headquarters for McDonald's was in Oak Brook, where I was at, and everyone knew who June Martino was. She had the third most controlling stock in McDonald's. In fact, interestingly enough, she was actually the first woman to ever trade on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Wow,
she was an amazing lady.
She was a go-getter.
Yeah, and what was interesting was that what she taught me. She taught me through a number of conversations, one for a whole day long, on how Ray influenced her, how Ray Kroc would. And then, by the way, in the movie The Founder, if your listeners haven't seen it, it's a great view. In the beginning, it says based on a true story. That's true. It's based on a true story, but it's not the true story. Right. I mean, Hollywood spin all over the place.
Right.
Yeah, making Ray into a person. He really wasn't that way at all, but it's Hollywood drama and spin, right? But the events, there's certainly a number of events that are nodded to in the movie. And she told me about the impact Ray had on her life. And I remember thinking to myself, man, if I could just find a Ray Kroc kind of person, someone that could take me under their wing like they did, like he did with June,
Yeah.
and teach her because I'm a son of a milkman. I don't even know what I don't know. I don't even know what to ask. I don't know what to do. I just know I'm not doing it right because I'm cleaning her $1 million home, and it was $1 million when I was 16 years old. I'm 65 now, so that was a couple of days ago. And
Right.
and she had a full-time maid and butler and a Rolls Royce in the garage. And I think, wow, this is just incredible. People really live like this. And I just threw it out there, Neena. I just threw it out there. I thought, where would I find my Ray Kroc? Where would he be? And it wasn't 2 or 3 months later, got a call to janitorial service. Guy was in from Detroit, Michigan, opening a diamond store, needed to see some carpeting. My boss sent me, and the guy offered me a job.
Oh, wow.
He became my mentor. He became the father I never had, even though I had a father, and I became the son he never had, even though he had a son. And
That's
I
awesome.
started working for him in the diamond business. And what was interesting about him, Neena, is that he was a puritanical genius. I don't believe in the genius IQ baloney. I've met too many educated idiots in my life,
Right.
that
Right.
all the book knowledge, they can spew it all at you, zero implementation and execution skills.
Right.
They just know all the theory,
Right.
right? So I lovingly call them, educated idiots, right?
Right.
He was the opposite. He was a puritanical genius. And to show you what an amazing man, I'd like to share a story with your listeners because it's quite a captivating story of, you think you had it rough. I mean, one of those stories, right?
Mm.
So here he was, told me that about what it was like growing up during the Great Depression. And he said, people were jumping off of buildings because they lost their
Wow.
fortunes, committing suicide. He said there was multi-mile long soup kitchen lines, multi-mile long, just waiting in line
Wow.
to get a bowl of soup. He said things were desperate. And so every day he would just be out he was out walking around, and he walked by this store, and the store was filled with sewing machines, and there was never anyone in there except one guy standing way in the back and sitting way in the back. So one day my mentor just went in, just, looking for something to do, talking to someone. So he started talking with the guy. Turns out he was the owner. And my mentor said, well, I noticed a lot of people aren't coming and going. He says, no one's buying sewing machines. He said, they're looking for food. He said, these things are they're all paid for and they're all collecting dust. And he said, I'm the owner. And he said, I can't even afford an employee. He said, that's it. I'm
Right.
the only guy here. So my mentor had this flash in his mind. And he said, would it be okay if I helped you sell some of these? And the owner looked at him and said, man, you better believe it. What do you have in mind? Whatever, do it. He said, well, I'd like to suggest that maybe we sell them on payments because people don't have the money. He said, and we'll split the payments. And he said, and I'll back the sewing machine. So if someone walks from the machine, you're still covered. I'll back the cost of the machine if someone walks with it. The guy says, man, go for it. Go for it. So the next thing my mentor did is he put together a flyer. And he used a thing called a
Wow.
mimeograph machine, which, he listeners go, what in the world? Anyway, look at Wikipedia, mimeograph, right? So he made a mimeograph machine, and he made these flyers of women to work from home. And
That's
he
smart.
couldn't even respond. He couldn't respond to the number of people responding because everyone needed money. They were, no one was hiring. So the fact that anyone was hiring. So he did this instance, which is so interesting. He actually created this huge community, which is really what we're sort of teaching with Givers University right now, is how to build a community, the right kind of givers community. He
Mhm.
built this community of women working from home. He sold them the sewing machine on payments. He gave them the patterns to sew. He gave them the material. He guaranteed he would buy the clothing from them, thus guaranteeing their income, which means they could make the payments on the sewing machine and have an actual income, which
Wow.
everyone needed. Then he bought the clothing from this community of women that he trained, and he sold them to stores as high quality, handmade, discounted clothing.
Wow. What a brain.
And then the customers loved it because people needed still to buy clothes, and so here was a great way to buy deep discounted handmade high quality clothing. So he went through and he solved problem after problem for all these people. He solved the
Wow.
sewing machine owners problem. He solved all these people, these women that needed to earn income. He helped them. He helped the store owners who now had a brand new product that was high quality at a very cheap price, and he helped the ultimate consumer. In 1 year's time, Neena, when people were jumping off of buildings,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he earned $1 million.
Right.
And that's in
Wow.
depression dollars.
Right.
Today, that's
Right.
way over 10 million,
Right.
way over 10 in 1 year. And
Wow.
he told me about, things were so desperate that before he had met the man with the soy machine, he said, for some of our meals, he said, we actually ate cardboard.
Wow.
And he earned $1 million in 1 year. So I share with your listeners, what's your excuse?
Right.
Because, when we really, so what he did, it was so extraordinary. And that was the kind of man, that was the kind of mind he had, at least in his mind, right?
Right.
That's why I said the puritanical genius. And at 19 years old, I asked him, I said, Sam, could you teach me everything? I mean, just teach me all of it, everything. Don't hold back. And he said, I will. I said, but I want one thing from you. He said, when the time is right, and you will know that time, I want you to teach as many people as possible everything that I teach you.
That's
So
awesome.
at 19 years old, Neena, I made an oath. I made a vow to my mentor, which I believe even today, even though, his diabetes and his eating habits as a youngster took a toll on his life, and, he left us decades before he should have. I still believe he's looking over my shoulder, making sure I'm fulfilling my oath
Fulfilling
and
your
my
promise.
commitment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really how Givers University came about.
Wow. That is wow. That is such a phenomenal story because I think, like you said, what's your excuse? And that's exactly it. It's the excuse, right? It's the constant looking at the negative instead of a positive, looking at outside sources instead of looking only at your problems. And that becomes the excuse, right? I can't because I don't have. I can't because I don't have money. I can't because I don't have whatever. But you know what I love too about this whole story you just told is your mind as well, because where did you get that mind? I mean, yes, your father was a milkman, but he was also an entrepreneur. He owned his own truck. He went and picked up the milk. He dropped everything off. Like he owned his own business, right? So, do you think that that had something to do with the influence of your mind, like watching your dad work, knowing the work ethic that it takes to do that, right? The strength that it takes to get up every day to do that. Do you think that had something to do with the way your mind worked at 19? Because that's rare to find in a 19-year-old.
I appreciate that. I do remember, it's interesting that you bring up that point. My father, at ripe old age of 5, I'm, helping him deliver milk. And back then, and I'd watch him get up at 3 a.m. and, none of the smaller trucks, the delivery trucks didn't have ice. You had to go cut your ice up. So they had these big
Right.
sheet, 5, 6 foot high blocks of ice. And he'd go in there with an ice pick and cut it up, and he'd put that on top of the milk. And that was how they
Wow.
kept the milk cold, right? Only the big 18-wheelers had refrigeration, right? And he always said the same thing that I know impacted me. He always, when we were working, he always said the same thing. He says, well, when we're done, we're done. And his whole point was the sooner we get done with the things we need and should do, the sooner we can get on to the other things, which may be more enjoyable aspects. And even as
Right.
a 5-year-old, he was saying, let's get our work done, let's get it done. And then you can go home and do whatever you want,
Right.
and that did have an impact on me because I watched him. He didn't have a boss looking over his shoulder. He didn't have saying punch in,
Mhm.
punch out. One man operation, like I said. He had his notebook he pulled out, and they calculated points on his customers, and he built his own route, and it was totally up to him. And I
Right.
recognized that there was no one else telling him do this, be there, be that, and yes, I submit to you that had a profound impact of my
Yeah.
just witnessing his being a self-starter and not complaining about it, not saying woe is me, never bought into fear mongering because there's always someone wanting to sell fear,
Oh, yeah,
and
for
uh,
sure.
and and just and witnessing the fact that you can do it, just get on with it, um, and 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 I watched that then as I parlayed that into the lessons I learned from my mentor. Two really important things he taught me that sort of became the cornerstone of Givers University. The one is, again, I'm 19 years old, being mentored by this man, right? My mentor, Sam Robbins. And he said, let me tell you about how this thing called life works. And I'm all ears, right? He said, picture in your mind this scale. And on the right side of the scale is all the things you're going to receive, all the things you're going to get in your life, everything you're going to get. He said, on the left side scale are all the things you're going to give and contribute and invest and put in. And he said, all those things. He said, now here's what's interesting about that scale. It strives for balance. In fact, even at a nanosecond, when it seems like it's out of balance, it's not. It will always right itself and it's always in balance. He said, so
Mm,
what I'm going to suggest to you will be a little difficult at the beginning. He said, but you'll get your head around it and you'll get it. He said, you'll figure it out. He said, forget about the right side. He said, that's the hard part. Forget about all the stuff you're going to get. And he said, and make it your daily job to heave so much on the left side of the scale that your goal each day is to get that scale out of balance because you've put so much on the left side. And he
wow.
said, and when it rights itself, you'll never have to think about or worry about what's going to come into your life. And I can
Right.
share with you that it was an absolute truth that he taught me.
Yeah, I mean, he taught you so much, right? Because you went in there, probably looking for a job, and you said he was a diamond jeweler. Is that what you said he was? Right.
Yes, yes, yep.
So, did you get into that kind of work as well? Because it seemed like he taught you way deeper things than looking at diamonds, right?
For
Um,
sure.
yeah, so that must have been a really great experience for you too, because you're watching this man. It's funny because when you started the story, you talked about him with the sewing machines and how he grew his own business, but you didn't mention about the diamonds. So obviously his impact was deeper than just you working there, right?
For sure, for sure,
Did you
for
get
sure.
into diamonds as well? Did you
Well,
learn? No? See?
yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah, oh no, I did for sure. The
Oh, you did?
and
Okay.
because he was opening up a diamond store, and
Uh-huh.
the reason he called our office was he wanted to bid on some carpeting. So my
Right.
boss was busy, and he sent me, and there was no carpeting for us to sell. He wanted something real plush for a diamond store, and we just
Mhm.
had commercial office kind of carpeting. So, but we talked for a couple hours, and
Wow.
then he offered me this job, and I actually said no multiple times. I said, man, I don't know anything about diamonds. I said, the only thing I know about diamonds is number one, they're expensive, and someday a lady's going to ask me for one.
Right.
That's all I know. I don't know anything else about diamonds. And he said, well, I'll teach you. And anyway, I said no like 4 times, and finally I just said, okay, what do you have in mind? And
Yeah.
and I did start working for him in a diamond business. I was blessed. At 21, I was chairman of that company.
Wow.
And because of the things he taught me, what I'm going to share with you and your listeners is, believe me when I say this is not to be braggadocious. It's the importance of having a Neena Perez in your life. It's the importance of having a coach, someone that can mentor you. There's a reason the coaches stand on the sidelines in the football game. They
Right.
don't stand next to the quarterback and say, because they're just going to see the same thing quarterback does.
Right.
Their vantage point is totally different. That's why they stand on the sidelines, right?
Right. That's good.
That's why you need a coach. In my instance, Sam was my mentor, right?
Right.
And I didn't know what a mentor was, let alone how to spell it, because
Right.
I think I spent all my hooked on phonics money on something else. But anyway,
I remember
so
Hooked on Phonics.
yeah,
That's so funny.
I know your listeners that catch that phrase and know that reference, like, say, oh boy, hooked on phonics. I
That's
remember that so well.
awesome.
But to show you again the impact, he taught me so many things, while I was learning
Yeah.
from him. One day, and this is, I was in my 30s at this point, and I'd worked my way in, and we were equal partners on many businesses, and his health was deteriorating. It really was, and because of his diabetes, an extreme case, and having
Mhm.
to do his eating habits, etc. And so one day he came to me, and he said, "EA, I'd like to propose that we compete against each other." And I looked up from my desk, and he had this glimmer in his eye that I had known over the years, that when I saw that glimmer, and what the glimmer was like, there was a show years ago called The Monkees, and Davy Jones, one of the characters, always fell in love in every episode,
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
his eyes would twinkle.
Yes.
That was the look. That's the look he had, right? So I'm looking at it, and I see his eyes sparkle, like, oh boy, this is gonna be really interesting, right? And I said, well, what do you have in mind, Sam? And he said, well, I'd like to propose that we have a contest each year. And I said, okay. And he said, I would like to have us compete against each other to see who can make the other more money that year. And the loser
Wow.
has to buy the winner anything they want. I said, wait. Okay. Before I agree to this, I want to make sure I understand what you're talking about here. All right, what you're saying is year to year, we're going to compete. I'm going to compete against you. You're competing against me. And if you make me more money that year than I made you, you won because you made me more money. I lost because I made you less money. Then you get to ask me for anything you want, and I have to buy it.
Wow.
He said, yes, that's right. And I said, okay, so
Love
the other
that.
side of the coin is right too, right? That means if I make you more money than you made me, you have to buy me anything. He said, that's right. I said, and I even remember, Neena, the breath going, whew, okay, it's going to be really interesting. And I said, okay, let's do it.
Wow.
So the first year, he beat me so bad. It was brutal. And I literally
That's
paid
awesome.
cash for him. I paid cash for him in a home in Florida. Now I couldn't be mad. I had the money. He
Right,
made
right,
me
right.
more money than I made him. So
Right.
but I thought, man, I got to get smart quick. This is going to be brutal. I better, I better get my head screwed on right. Something's right. I need to learn.
Wow.
So the next year I won. Then he bought me actually a plane, and that's when I became a commercial pilot. The next year he bought me a limousine. The next year he bought me a second airplane.
Right.
And then it dawned on me.
You guys weren't playing around. Those are big gifts.
Yeah, they were big gifts.
Oh
They were
my
all big
goodness.
gifts. Yeah. And
Okay.
and it dawned on me, Neena, what he did. I thought, man, this guy is
Yeah.
amazing. I realized he knew his health was deteriorating. We both knew it.
Yeah.
And that he couldn't keep up with me. I'm in my 30s, and I'm in full stride, right? I'm running every day. He couldn't keep up with me hours of the day and productivity. He wanted me to win because we were splitting everything 50-50. He didn't want my mind to get goofed up. He wanted me to have something he wasn't getting. And I thought to myself, Neena, what kind of man thinks up that?
Right.
What kind of mind
A giver.
projects forward
Yeah.
what could potentially happen, craft that whole idea, come to me with it like that, and do it. And so
Wow.
that actually became one, we call that the giver's contest intention. And when we teach people how to form a community, and I just want to touch on, I'm going to go through it real quick so your
Yeah.
listeners can listen to it again
Yeah,
in our
please.
interest of time here. We teach people, and there's such an important part of what my mentor had taught me was, how do you build a community?
Yeah.
How do you build a giver community versus a taker community? And first, I share with your listeners, we love everybody. We don't label people givers and we don't label people takers. What
Right.
we do is we teach people how to separate the person who we love from their deeds, which we may not love. And
Mhm.
we teach what we call discernment. That's the one thing we teach at Givers University across the board. How do you discern in your relationships? So we have actual checklists that we teach people, look for these deeds. Don't listen to what they're saying.
Right.
Look, it's a skill. Observe
Understand.
their deeds, watch what they're doing. And then from that, you can decide, should I bring them closer in my life and become a part of my giver community? Or because of what I'm seeing them do,
Mhm.
not listening to what they're saying, what I'm observing them do, should I now begin to respectfully, not rude or nasty, should I begin to respectfully distance myself from them? Because if I bring them closer, they're going to make me collateral damage. And I'm going to be stamping out fires not of my making. I ask your listeners, how many fires do you stamp out every day that are not of your making?
Right.
I'll guarantee you they got a name attached to them. I
Mhm.
guarantee you they do. So we teach people by looking at deeds, and we actually have a checklist that's 25 deeds. These are the 25 things that you look for. Watch them doing that. It's a skill that can be
Mhm.
learned, an observation skill. And these are the 25 things that a giver will do. And these are the 25 things that a taker will do. And we contrast those,
That's
and they
good.
literally they total it up on the bottom. So we don't judge people. What we do is we teach people how to observe other people's deeds, and then from that they can build this giver community, and we walk people through step by step. We have 7 steps. It spells out the
Mhm.
word discern, DISCERN.
Okay.
And the 7 steps, these are the 7 steps on how you build the right kind of people around you. What do you do? Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich does a masterful job talking about the mastermind principle.
Mhm.
And of course, it was very novel when he certainly started talking about that, except he doesn't say how to do it. He just
Right.
says what it is, right?
Most people. Yeah.
And so we've broken it down very granular. This is how you form your giver community. This is what you do. This is what you say. This is how you do it step by step in those 7 steps. And
Mm.
that's really the purpose of this second round of interviews I'm doing right now, is to let people know there's a way, and there's people that want to teach you this new skill set. And Almost all of it's free. Almost all of it. The 7 steps, the 25 do's, all those, we give those away as free downloads. We want people to have them because we know it's going to impact their life.
Right. Well, because you're givers, right? Your mentor poured his life into you, really,
He
it
did.
sounds like,
He did. He did.
and the competition that he had with you was literally to keep pouring into you. It's just unbelievable, right? Like, and the impact is that till this day, you are using that life skill and principles that he taught you to impact a whole nother community of people, right? It's pretty amazing. You're right. You have definitely been with somebody who put everything on the left side of the scale, right? And just kept pouring in and pouring in and pouring in. That's a beautiful thing, EA. I mean, did you as you started to like grow and get your own businesses and all of that, did you start taking on people that you would mentor as well? Like, did that become a part of you?
Yes, I did. And and not to the extent yet that that my mentor did with me. There's been 1 or 2 people over the years that I've shared with it, that kind of depth informationally, why, if you will, supplanting wisdom with education, and those, he taught me wise things, and
Yeah.
wisdom is knowing what to do and when to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so the answer is yes. And what we do is, of course, with the beauty of the online world, which is, of course, an excellent and also double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
We are able to share now at a huge level,
Yeah.
and by virtue of mentoring, just like you do when you help your clients and people you're working with. Like, more Neena Perez's need to be out there, and people that are helping people and being on the sidelines and saying, do this and get it. I made that mistake. There's no reason. My mentor said, you're going to get tackled 1,000 times. There was so many times I got tackled, but I got back up. He taught me how to get back up. And he
Right.
said, you don't drown by falling in the swimming pool. You drown by staying there. And
Right.
and he said, get out of the pool. You're in it.
So
Get
true.
get
Oh,
out
that's
of the
funny.
pool. Yeah.
So
So
before I let you go, I just want you to tell me a little bit about the courses that you do, because
great.
I mentioned them a little bit, like the Giver's Mindset, the Giver's Lifestyle, the Giver's Lifelong Learning, right? So I know that has a lot to do with what we already touched on a little bit,
Yep.
but what are the courses? What does that look like?
Well, it's actually a series. It's called Give to Be Great.
Right.
And we
Okay.
do believe that you can be great by giving. And
Mhm.
within that, there's 3 courses. And the first one's called The Giver's Mindset. And it's a combination of there's an actual book, 300 and some page book, and 16 15-minute audio lessons paralleling
Oh,
going
okay.
with that. And then the second course is called The Giver's Lifestyle. There we identify the 30 habits of givers, that there are things that givers will habitually do over and over again, and you can see them do it. And the same thing with takers. So we help people identify that. And there's a course in audio with that as well. And then the
Okay.
Giver's Lifelong Learning, which is the third course. So all of those together. And what we really like people to do and prefer, they go to our website and sign up for our free newsletter.
Yeah.
That we don't spam people. They're going to get an email right away. It says, do you want to talk to these people? I hate that. I sign up for something because I want to download, and all of a sudden I get 6 emails a day. And I go,
Right.
unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe.
Right.
And so we send out one email a week on Thursdays,
Okay.
and it's called the Giver's Toolbox. And what we
Okay.
do is we provide another tool to help people that they can add into their relationship toolbox. Also, they're going to receive, the moment they get that email and they say, yes, I want to talk to these people, 2 hours later, they should watch their email. They're going to get the first download absolutely free, which is those 25 deeds,
Okay.
the 25 checklists. They're going to get that 2 hours later. Download it, print it off, put it in your pocket. Start watching and observing and learn that skill that's going to
Mm,
have an impact on every single part of our life. Because what is going to impact our life more than our relationships? And
right.
when we learn how to discern those relationships,
Right. I
our
like that.
productivity goes up in direct proportion.
Yeah, I like that you're using discernment as well. Do you feel like you can do you feel like that you can give to the point of exhausting yourself? Like, to the what I mean by that is, if you're not using discernment, right? And you're just giving to give and give, do you think that sometimes that can be a detriment, or that can be bad for you if you're giving without discerning? That makes sense.
The answer is yes, because at some
Yeah.
point, the battery goes dry,
Yeah.
and because, it's just like, there's those people that, if we have the wrong people around us, those people that brighten up a
Yeah,
room by,
that's what I mean. Right.
the ones that brighten up a room by leaving it,
Right.
they,
Yes.
when you
I
have,
love that. Yes.
yeah, they're weaned on a pickle, those ones,
Right.
the same ones,
Right.
those are when we have discernment, we're not put in that position
That's good.
anymore because we've
Right.
surrounded ourselves
Right.
with other batteries that are now giving to us to the same extent. And when we teach people how to build their communities, we teach them how to discern. What are those 7 steps? And the first one is decide. You have to decide, who do you want to have around you,
That's
and
good.
not labeling them, but observing their deeds. When we have the right group around us, Neena, we're never going to reach that point of the battery runs dry, because they're charging us as we're charging them all the
Right.
time. Right.
Right.
And you get greater strength because of that. But when we have not learned the discernment skill, yeah, they'll get to the bottom of the barrel and then they'll start scraping for water,
Yeah.
because that's what takers do. They're doing
Right.
their job. They're
Right.
takers. They're doing their job.
Yeah, that's why I asked that specific question, because I know
Yeah.
that you can surround yourself with takers that will drain you dry.
Oh, they
So
will.
I didn't want anybody, going away from this saying, "Oh, I'm just going to give my whole, my whole life away," without discerning that they should be, pouring into the people they're pouring into. Do you
Exactly.
feel like, it's the last question? I know I said 30 minutes, but I just really like
I
you.
appreciate it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you feel like a taker can become a giver? Or do you feel like that's our
Yes.
nature? Oh, you can. Okay.
We even teach them that. In fact, what's interesting is that we have, within those 25 dues, we call them 25 dues, or the 25 deeds, there's an automatic self-assessment part that's built in. When they look at it, they go, oh boy, it's number 13. I'm really off the rails on number 13, et cetera. So we actually teach. We teach what you just said, because,
Yeah.
20% of the population, and statistically, we've proven this, about 20% of the population are givers. You put them in any situation, it doesn't matter what it is, in a short period of time, they will craft a way to start giving to it. That's what they're wired that way. The other 20%, the other extreme, are what we call takers, and they're wired to take. They're going to craft a way to take from the relationship emotionally, financially, morally, any way they can. Now that leaves 60%. The 60% in the middle, we call them fencers. We don't label them fencers, it's their deeds, right? And fencers are named fencers because that's what they do. They sit on the fence. They act like givers when they're with givers. They act like takers when they're with takers. They can be great relationships, but you're going to need to manage them and watch them closely. Ideally, you want to work towards having puritanically the givers around you. And we teach people, when you're a taker, there's a thing you can do. We actually teach this process. It's called a data reset. DATA. Data reset stands for declare and turn around. DATA. And we teach them to do this process of declaring and turning around, and what they do. Because when someone really wants to transform from one way of living into another, it's not just a matter of saying it. You can see it by their deeds. So that it shows up in their deeds. It's not just, I'm going to stop doing that. And then that's not enough. Just saying it is not enough. You've got to back it up with the action and the deed. So we actually teach a process to do just that. And one of the best ways all of your listeners could help someone, if they feel they have a coworker, social someone in their life, or even a family member that maybe Neena is being a little takerish, they have a simple thing they can do. What they can do is share a great podcast that's called Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. And here's why they do that. It's real simple. Third party. They can simply say, you know what? I heard this really thought-provoking interview. It was really different, and it made me think about something. Do me a favor, listen to it and tell me what you think of it. And you never know, their mind may open up, and next thing you know, you're stomping out less fires just because they shared your great podcast with someone who was a little takerish and maybe now is a little more giverish.
Yeah, no, that's great. Oh my gosh. Okay. So before I let you go, EA, give us your website and everything else so people can find it, because the things you're talking about just really relate to my heart. And I think it's something that a lot of people want to, especially now, right? Like, people are feeling all kinds of pressure,
More
and
than ever.
people do want to give, don't know how to, they don't know if they should, that kind of things. And there are a lot of takers. I mean, they just are. And now that we've opened up our world to this virtual world, now you're really exposed to a lot of givers and takers. So how do we get in contact with getting your newsletter, signing up for that, like looking at your courses, all of that? Give us your info, your social.
Just all they have to do is just go to our website. It's plural, giversuniversity.com. And
Awesome.
they'll see all of our social media icons on there. So we have a YouTube channel where every week we have a 2-minute clip on how to build your community, and we walk people through. I think we're on clip number, I want to say 11 coming out this week. We're going to do a total series of 25 2-minute clips that helps
Wow.
people. First, what's the difference between a giver and taker community? And then what's the next step? What's the next step? How do you do this? How do you build these right people around you? So
Mhm.
that's on our YouTube channel. So go to our website. You'll see all the icons for all the social media, LinkedIn, et cetera, et cetera. And then and sign up for the newsletter. And from that, they'll learn about everything we do. And in the meantime, they'll get some great downloads as we live up to our name as Givers University. And
Mhm.
Neena, thank you so much for having on your wonderful show. And
I'm
for
so
your
glad
listeners,
you're here.
share Neena's podcast with others. And you're going to have
Thank you.
automatically more givers around you because of what she teaches.
Well, I'm definitely signing up. Anyway, I'm going up there right now to sign up for that newsletter because I want to get all of that stuff. Because I mean, I
Awesome.
think you're
Awesome.
doing great work, EA. Thank you so much for doing this. And
You're
thank you for
welcome.
pouring into people's lives this way, because the more we give, I feel like the more we're blessed in our lives. And I
Absolutely.
try to live my life like that as well, where I don't look at what I'm going to get back, but I do try to give as much and pour as much as I can into it. Makes me feel good. Maybe that's my get back, is that it makes me feel like I'm a part of something, and it makes me feel good to do it. So thank you, EA. I
You're
appreciate you
welcome.
very much. Thank
I
you.
appreciate you, Neena. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you. And thank you guys so much for being here with us and listening. Don't forget to follow EA. I'm going to make sure to put all of his social media links and everything below in the show notes so that you can go on there and check it out. Check out his YouTube channel, go on to check out his courses and all of the information that you can get. Sign up for the newsletter too, guys, because you're going to get great downloads and information as well. So thank you so much for being here. This is Neena Perez. This is Straight Talk, no sugar added. Until next time.
This broadcast is brought to you by Wincheck Studios. We are an all-in-one educational platform for podcasters that revolutionizes how hosts leverage content to increase engagement with listeners, downloads, and income. We come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how you can interact directly with our hosts, access exclusive live content with offers you can't get anywhere else from our official partners, join our purpose-driven community by visiting www.winject.com. If you're ready to build a career doing what you love, then we're ready to see you there.